After much soul-searching, Theodore Roosevelt thought it better to keep his word with the American public than to run for office again in 1908. Instead, Roosevelt decided to handpick his successor, someone he could rely on to carry out his agenda. With William Howard Taft, Roosevelt thought he had the perfect candidate. Number 27, William Howard Taft, Republican, 1909 to 1913, age 52, from Ohio. Originally brought into the civil service by President William McKinley, Taft had distinguished himself as the Governor-General of the Philippines. Taft went on to serve under Roosevelt, and the two men became best friends.
He had been a kind of utility infielder in the McKinley and Roosevelt administrations. He was the kind of person that if you had a job that needed doing, you could stick him in it and he'd do a good one.
Happy to have been Roosevelt's right-hand man, Taft never had any real desire to be president.
Taft was very reluctant to run for president. He didn't really want to do this. He wasn't a natural politician, his problem was. He really, not only did he not want to be president, but he wasn't a politician in general. It was his wife who pushed him into it.
Taft's wife, Nellie, had always dreamt of living in the White House. Ironically, soon after Taft's inauguration, Nellie suffered a stroke and was never able to enjoy the First Lady lifestyle she had wanted so badly. A lawyer by trade, Taft's one ambition had always been to be a Supreme Court justice.
He said once that a good judge is our model in our minds of what God is like. Not that he, aspired to be divine or anything like that, but he thought that a good judge was the highest human type, and that's what he wanted to be.
As president, Taft took a narrow legal route in all matters, quite different from the precedent-setting Roosevelt. In truth, the two men were opposites in almost every way. Roosevelt was famous for his athleticism, while Taft was often ridiculed because of his weight.
Taft had a long experience as an overweight man. He was big all his life. And he had a great sense of humor about that and about everything. He would love to tell the joke about being on a streetcar. He said, I got up and I gave my seat to 3 ladies.
But once in the White House, Taft's jovial personality began to falter, largely because he hated the glare and scrutiny of the intense political spotlight on the presidency.
He became grumpy and depressed, and of course, he ate more and more and more. And he gained 100 pounds, up to 355 pounds. This was a symptom of his unhappiness.
In what must have been the ultimate humiliation, Taft once had to be pried out of the White House bathtub.
They finally put in a new bathtub in the White House that was reputed to be as big as a small swimming pool.
Taft's discomfort in the presidency was also apparent in his weak leadership.
He generally, as a rule, delegated responsibility, and he allowed most of his cabinet members to pretty much do as they pleased.
Taft fretted over making decisions and often procrastinated. He believed the president's job was merely to uphold the Constitution. Groundbreaking policies set by the freewheeling Roosevelt were slowly starting to reverse under Taft.
And TR was like a pot boiling over, watching Taft dismantle a lot of the programs and agendas that he had set. And he wanted revenge on Taft, and he got it.
Well, Taft may not have enjoyed being president, but he doesn't want to be bullied out of it by Teddy Roosevelt.
Taft himself probably would not have run for the presidency had he not been so angry by Roosevelt's increasing criticism of his administration.
The former best friends battled each other for the Republican nomination in 1912. It became so ugly that at one point, Taft broke down in tears.
It was particularly sad, the renomination process, because Roosevelt, being the combative fellow he was, began to speak more and more ill of Taft, and he publicly called him a fathead, a dimwit, a puzzle wit, and a man with brains of about 3 guinea pig power, which was devastating to Taft.
In turn, it was devastating to Roosevelt when the Republicans chose Taft as their candidate because they preferred his conservative politics. Even more shocking was Roosevelt's reaction. He joined the progressive Bull Moose Party. The result was a division in the Republican vote, opening the path for a clear victory for the Democratic challenger, Woodrow Wilson. Taft came in a distant third behind Roosevelt.
So he had gone into the presidency with a huge sweep and left in a most embarrassing way with only 8 electoral votes. But he didn't care. He was just so glad, as he said, to step down and out. He couldn't care at all.
After leaving office, Taft lost weight and finally achieved his lifelong ambition of being named Chief Justice of the United States, a position he excelled in as much as he enjoyed. Sadly, William Howard Taft's legacy has long been overshadowed by Theodore Roosevelt's, which is largely due to the great differences in their personalities. TR loved the presidency, and Taft hated it. But contrary to Roosevelt's accusations, Taft's administration did much to continue the many progressive measures initiated by Roosevelt. And in fact, he did more to regulate monopolies than TR. And it turned out that Taft also had remarkable foresight about the dangers of an emerging 20th century-style imperial presidency and its potential abuse of executive power and privilege.